students. I'm going to do a full lesson here on our Minute Medical project. So I'm going to walk you through the whole steps here, and this will be available for you to reference. So here we go. I'll do this in different parts because these files get really big. So this part one will cover getting the project downloaded and opened up. Here we go. So I'm going to log into class in Laulima. We are Intro to Music Technology. This is under assignments. And here we have Minute Medical, GB, standing for GarageBand. So read the assignment here. Some of you, I think, might not be. So again, this is a commercial. It's got to be 30 seconds, no more. If it's more than 30 seconds, it gets rejected. And I'll show you how to make sure it's trimmed. We're going to do a donut, which in radio and maybe TV is when you have some sort of jingle at the beginning and end, and you talk over it in the middle. Usually the music or whatever's going on while someone is talking is ducked, meaning it's lowered in volume so that the speaking voice stands out. In things like talk shows, this is done automatically, actually using something like a compressor, where the compression is triggered by the announcer's voice, and what gets compressed is anything else. It's called a side chain in a compressor. So go to the Minute Medical folder in GarageBand projects. I put a link to this here, which will do this, and here you're right in it, and these are the 3 files in the folder. The Minute Medical 139 piano zip, and my instructions are to open this one first, and it will set up the GarageBand project, and it's important you do this first. It's got the tempo built into it, and it also has the MIDI piano part, and if you drag it in later, if you open, for example, this one first, the one with all the audio files, it will not play in sync. So this one establishes the tempo and the piano. So you can click on that, but just to show you, this is really just a reference to where all the GarageBand files are. So if you ever need to go back to them without opening up everything, it'll be GarageBand 271, Minute Medical, and it has these in it. So let's do that. Download Minute Medical 139. It's downloading at the bottom of my screen. I'm going to click open, see if it works. Otherwise, you have to open it manually. On my other screen here, it's asking me, well, actually, it did it. It downloaded it, and I'm viewing it inside of my downloads folder. I'll double click on it. Hopefully it'll open. If it doesn't, drag it onto your GarageBand icon. And if that doesn't work, open GarageBand and try to open it from there. But I believe mine's opening now. It's asking me where to save it. I haven't done this on my home computer, so I'm going to, on one of my bigger hard drives, I'm going to use my Other World Computing hard drive 2. I'm doing this because I want to make a new folder here. I'm doing Zoom lessons here too. New folder. I'll do MUS 271 Spring 2020. and I have other versions of this, so I'm going to save this as Minute Medical #1. Save. So this is what it should look like. It's just one track with the piano on it. I don't want the metronome on. Okay, let me put that down here. Let's continue on. Let me get back to the assignments tab. Yes, so we've done this. Download directly from the GarageBand folder. Next, download the Minute Medical 139 MP3 zip. This is a folder with the MP3 individual tracks. We're going to drag them into the project. Again, Joette is the singer. There's a high guitar. There's an Harmony AT, which is my abbreviation for something that's been auto-tuned. And we're going to delete this once we get it in. We don't need it. Guitar 2.2, it's the main rhythm guitar. Harmony 3 is the untuned vocal harmony, so that's what I had tuned with this track. But we'll try and do that in GarageBand maybe. Guitar 1 is my original guitar track where I created the structure of the song, experimenting with the tempo to get it so it ended in a good musical way within 30 seconds. Drum audio is captured track from my Superior Drummer software instrument. Bass is a bass guitar. The chunk guitar is a rhythm guitar with palm muting, and you'll hear what that is when you play it. I have an intro fill on the drums on a separate track, I believe. So the MIDI piano is what I played, and I recorded it in MIDI. I'm saying I suggest that you make a cut and delete a portion of it near the glissando. That's where you do a slide like that's on a keyboard. And you're going to need to do that if you want to make it sound right and end within 30 seconds. So that's a little tricky. Before you do that, it's really hard to do undo and edge edit MIDI in GarageBand. I don't believe you can do it. So I would make a copy of the MIDI track in case you need to go back, because if you get it out of sync, you're really going to be in trouble, and it's going to be hard to get it back. So make a copy of it. And, of course, save as you go, and then you can go back and make a copy of the good MIDI and paste it over the bad MIDI if you need to. At the end of the track, in the piano track, you'll see that I did some experimenting. I'll show you that here. That's at the end there. And I was going to do this little riff. I actually slowed it down to do that, but I don't think I used it. But it's still there. I think I have covered that. Yes. So we're going to set up the EQ and the two bands of the multi-band compressor, which of course has the thresholds at 0 on 2 bands. And I say use at least 2 guitar tracks and 1 vocal harmony. More on that later. We'll get back to the end of these instructions once we get there. So I'm going to move on here and get this loaded up. So this is a link to the MP3 files here. It's downloading at the bottom left of my screen. I'm going to hit the triangle. I'm going to do Show in Finder. And so it's downloaded to my Downloads folder. I'm going to double click that so the folder unzips, and there it is, unzipped. And inside of the folder, they're in alphabetical order. So I'm just going to put that in a place where I can see them like that. And I'll go back to GarageBand. Let me get this. It's good to get everything in position here. I'm going to hit the rewind button. It's really important when you bring these tracks in now that they end right on beat 1 of the first measure. You can zoom in a little bit here to make sure you are. So I'm really zoomed in, and then of course in my counter, I'm at measure 1, beat 1. You might want to view time in this too. So you can go to this transport time readout and hold the arrow, and I'm going to view beats and time. So this will show me the location and measures and the elapsed time. So I'm going to click on bass, and I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard and click the bottom one, and it makes a selection of everything, those two and everything in between. I'm going to hold my mouse down on these highlighted files, and I'm going to drag them. You see, watch the line move with it. And I'm right on 1.1 now. I was on 1.2, and it would have been out of sync with the piano. So I'm going to release my mouse now. So it's going to bring in the audio files. It will populate the waveforms. And so everything's in and should be in sync. GarageBand will default to having all these settings, the faders at 0. This bass track was there by default when it opened up. And this is our real bass track here. So I'm going to get rid of that bass. I'm highlighting it, and then you can hit your delete key, I think, but just get rid of it. There's nothing there, and there won't be anything in it. I'm going to do a save at this point. So this is my clean slate, okay, of this project now with everything in it. And just, I'll play it for a second with everything wide open. It's pretty loud, sorry about that. I'll do that one more time. My volume was up. So everything's just blasting. But anyway, so everything's there and in sync. So yes, we saved it. Let's go through what we've done before, and we'll set up our channels. Highlight the bass track. We'll click on the Smart Control dial, and this will open up our plugins. I'm going to set my input to none on this and collapse the record settings. We are going to record a voiceover, but it's easier to do it in the mastering, and you'll see why later. For our plugins, you should be good at this by now. We don't want the compressor. Put the channel EQ to the top. Bring in your AU multiband. If you don't see it there, it should be in the audio units. If you don't see audio units, some of you might have a new Mac that you're working with, or if you need to go to the GarageBand preferences, and under audio MIDI, make sure that enable audio units is checked, okay? And then you'll see it if you don't. So if it's not there the first time, go into Apple AU multiband. I've done this before, but let's do it. So band 1 is threshold to 0. Push it out of range. Band 2, threshold to 0. We want that. Let's set our crossover for the two bands at about like 280, a little bit under 300. This way it crosses over, some of the important low mids and low frequency here. Band 3, threshold to 0. Band 4, threshold to 0. Out of range. Now we're going to save this, save as. And I'm going to call it default. So it's a clean slate with, it's not doing anything unless I want it to. Save. So I'm going to do that real quick for these other channels. I'm just going to go right down the line here. Guitar. Get rid of compressor. No plugin. EQ up to the top. Bring in AU multiband. Load my default. Good. Drum audio. Same thing. No plugin. Channel EQ. AU multiband. This takes a minute once you get done it a few times. I don't think I really need to close this. I think if I just go to a new track, it automatically switches to it. Bite of the compressor. Push it up. So guitar 2. No plugin. Multiband. Default. So you don't need to save these. I know this came up for some of you, but GarageBand Project is going to remember all this. You don't want to save the settings unless it's something you want to use in the future, but you don't need to do it to save the project. What was that? Intro fill. I forgot where I was. Did I do the high guitar yet? I guess I did. Did all these. Intro fill. Joette. Oh no, I'm lost. Guitar 2 I did. I see that it's, I'm sorry, I was talking and lost where I was. Harmony 3 is good. Harmony auto tune. You know what? Let's not, well, I'll let you listen to it and you'll see what it is. I'm going to solo it.
Minute medical urgent care. Care is where our heart is.
So it's the total share effect
Minute
on
medical urgent care. Care is.
But let's get rid of it unless you want to keep it for some reason. So I'm just going to highlight that track and delete it. Oops. That was the waveform. I want to delete the track. There we go. Harmony 3 is good. High guitar needs to get rid of the compressor. Multiband. Default. Intro fill. Get rid of the compressor. AU multiband. Default. Joette, the singer. No compressor. Channel EQ. Multiband. So we've set this all up. I'm going to push all my faders down and we're going to work on this. This is going to be the end of part 1, which is the basic setup of the project. And we're going to make the donut out of the lead vocals. So I'm going to keep my MIDI on the top. Then we have the harmony threes. And let's put the drums next to the fill. I have my 3 guitars and bass there. So this is our basic setup now. So I'm going to do a save as. And I'll call it number 1, basic setup. So this is the end of part 1. I'll stop the video here.